Notice of public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a workshop, an executive session, and a regular meeting on Tuesday, December 15th, 2009 at 5:15 p.m., 5:45 p.m., and 6 p.m. in the Commission Chambers on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. Workshop items, item A, discussion regarding small wind energy systems, and discussion, item B, discussion regarding status of Brownsville Multimodal Terminal Project. Ms. Zamora has asked that item B be done first.
That's fine.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's that time of the year again to give you an update on our project. And here with me today to give the update is Alan Zarid with Jacobs, the architect and engineer of our project. And Alan will give the presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here again, especially as we kick off construction with the groundbreaking that was held yesterday. I'll try to be brief. I know you've seen this presentation before. A few things have been updated. Oh, good. Wait, this is forward. Okay. And some information you'll see is new, but we'll give you a little bit of an update for some of the commissioners that may not have seen this in the past. There we go. I got it now. This is an overview of the site, just briefly. I think you all know where it is. International Boulevard, the International Gateway Bridge is here. The site is bordered on the north by Jefferson, on the south by Adams, on the west by 13th Street, and obviously on the east by International Boulevard. The two orange bars here show the proposed closures of 14th Street and 15th Street, which actually have been approved, and those streets have now been closed. The two red circles show essentially what we've identified as gateways to the site. One at the International Bridge with a identified pedestrian path up 14th Street to a gateway entry to the site at this location, and then a pedestrian path up International Boulevard to essentially the entry to the facility, which you'll see in a moment, and then a secondary entry at the gateway to University of Texas at Brownsville. And you'll see in a few minutes, as you see how the facility progressed, how these elements influence the design of the facility. Several items that are shown here, including the improving the pedestrian pathway up 14th and International Boulevard, are outside of this project, but may be taken on by the city at a later date. It's just an aerial view showing that in 3 dimensions, looking from the southeast, I guess, towards the site. Again, 14th Street through the site currently being closed, and 15th Street being closed to accommodate bus access to the site. And this is looking at the site from the intersection, or the entry to University of Texas at Brownsville. You're looking down Jefferson Street here and down International at this point. All the buildings now have been demolished with the exception of El Expresso. Just quickly on the project goals, I won't go through all of these, but I think one of the primary goals that we started the project with was really to create a new civic image for Brownsville by we are creating obviously a new functional transportation center, and in doing so increase the image of public transportation in Brownsville, which thereby would increase patronage, create more efficient operations and so forth, not only for Brownsville Urban Systems, but for the intercity bus operators as well. As part of that was also to remove the bus operations from the core of downtown, to free up city streets, to have less impact to the city streets from a repair and operational standpoint, to provide better connections between the local bus system and intercity providers, and allow those transfers to happen on one site between intercity providers, as opposed to those happening on the street and having to have pedestrian connections between those facilities. Obviously, another one we've already talked about is the pedestrian access to International Gateway Bridge. About 40% of the patronage to this facility actually comes from patrons that are crossing the bridge at that point. So those pedestrians are very important to the operation and success of the facility.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Over here. Over here.
So, oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Where is that coming from?
No. What do you mean by pedestrian access? Do you mean a sidewalk, or what is it specifically that you mean?
Yeah, sidewalks. Let me go back just a minute. This will go backwards. 14th Street currently is a pedestrian mall in this first block. Let me go back one more here, I guess. The first block here has been turned into strictly a pedestrian mall. 14th Street was closed. There are pedestrian sidewalks along 14th Street in this next block to provide access to the facility, but we did propose, and we've had discussions with the city, maybe the need to increase the width of those sidewalks, improve those sidewalks, that have a little more direct pedestrian connection.
What do you mean by gateway? So is there an actual gate, or what exactly?
I'd say a symbolic gateway. Gateway in terms of an entrance. This is really the main automobile and pedestrian entrance into the university
So
itself.
it's not actually a gate?
Not actually a gate, no. But it could be. And then the bridge itself, obviously, is called the Gateway Bridge because it is kind of the gateway to Mexico at that point. So it's more of a symbolic. Good question. One of the first things we did, obviously, when we started this project, even back when we were programming the facility, that we really figured out what the needs were. We started to look at some of the architecture that was going to drive how the facility really fit into Brownsville. And one of the goals that we had stated in the previous slide was to respect the context of Brownsville and the history of Brownsville and make sure this facility really fit in as a civic image. So these are just some of those images that we used to kind of guide us through the design process. Another image we used that was actually brought to us by the city, Peter Goodman, was this rendering of the original Missouri Pacific Depot, which was demolished some years ago, but it provided us with some guidance in terms of what a transportation facility historically looked like in Brownsville. You'll see some of the elements as we move into the design of the facility, including the arch gateway, the tower, the punch local facility that we used in the design of the facility. These are just some of the elements that we focused on, the architectural elements in terms of the building massing, how it ties in, urban design elements that tied into the city in terms of how the perimeter of the site looks, what the urban infrastructure looks like, and how we can use that infrastructure to help promote adjacent development around the site, providing quality pedestrian facilities, and then dealing with all the functional elements in terms of how the facility really works. This will get into the program a little bit. On the left, you see the intercity bus space. We have 17 bus space. Originally, when we started the project, we only had interest for about 7 bus spaces in this facility, and we went through the process. We bus had more and more intercity operators coming to them saying, we want to be part of this, if this can happen. So it originally grew to the need for 17 bus bays, which is now. Brownsville Urban Systems has a need for 12 bus bays, which are the replacement bays for the existing facility. The terminal itself on the right, we have about 24,000 square feet of terminal area. Supporting that is about 11,000 square feet of retail space that has a direct adjacency and access from the terminal as well as facing International Boulevard, so it has kind of two-sided operation where they can have exposure to traffic on International Boulevard as well as have a direct access from inside the facility. And then the facility also includes the Brownsville Urban Systems Administration area of about 6,600 square feet. This is an overview of the site itself. International Boulevard is on the right. Adams is on the bottom of the site here. Just as far as the organization of the site, this center island here are the 12 bus bays for Brownsville Urban Systems. The diagonal buses that you see in here are the 17 bays for the intercity bus operation. They are accessed by coming in off International, turning right onto Adams, coming through the facility, and then exiting on 13th back to Jefferson and back to International. So we're able to keep essentially all those bus operations within a one-block radius, very efficient operation from International back around the site too. The access for the Brownsville Urban Systems operations is either off of Jefferson Street or off of 13th Street with one-way circulation around that island for those 12 bus bays. The terminal building itself is the main entry focused on the intersection of Adams and International. The main waiting area is in this zone. The block of space you see here facing International is the retail area, again, that has exposure to International Boulevard and then access from the terminal building itself. In the back, we have parking for employees as well as parking for package express and people that may just need to drop off packages and so forth at the facility. And then we also have short-term parking and taxi stands in front, parallel parking along Adams here, diagonal parking along Adams at this point, and then we have bus bays for the rural operators and drop-off along Jefferson at this location. And then we also have on-street parking immediately in front of the retail space along International Boulevard. The rest of the short-term parking, there are 78 spaces in the existing city parking lot that are initially going to be used for this facility. That 78 spaces does meet what the initial need was, but there is also a goal to, should there be an increased need, to build a parking structure on this site that would be subject to the need for future funding after this project is completed.
Alan,
This-
Alan,
go
I'm sorry
ahead.
to interrupt. And
Go ahead.
the future parking garage, the multi-level parking, that grant, has that been worked on or submitted yet? Or is that still pending? The possibility of going out for a grant for the multi-level parking norm, has that already been submitted, or is that something we're waiting until the project is fully funded?
I think what we're waiting for is to get this project fully funded, and we'll be moving forward on that project once we release the documents, the construction documents for this project. But we have preliminary site plans
Okay,
for the parking garage.
thank you.
We feel that the parking that's there now is sufficient for the facility, at least in the initial operation, but obviously there's a need for additional parking downtown, and this could be shared parking between the facility and the retail merchants in the downtown area. And the lower level of the garage could have additional retail space as well. Just briefly, this is the floor plan. Adams is at the bottom of the street, again, International. Again, this block of space is the retail space that can be one or two tenants, or it could be divided up into multi-tenants, as you see here. There is a major entrance to the terminal itself off of International, so you can pass through the retail space, enter the main waiting area. The organization of the first floor is that you enter through a large lobby area that would also include the ability to wait inside for someone that's being picked up, a large seated waiting area, ticket counters along the back of that, ticket offices behind there, and then mechanical space and building operations behind that. Services such as restrooms, security, and so forth are located to the left. The red areas are vertical circulation to the second level where the bus administrative offices are. You can also see that it has a primary back entrance with parking on the back. So we've tried to make sure that this building doesn't really have a back door. You can enter from essentially the formal front area from International Boulevard or from Jefferson without really feeling like you're going through the back of the building.
Alan, going back to the security space that's going to be, as being designated in the bus terminal, is that going to be like our private security? Is that going to be our Brownsville PD? They're going to have a little station there, or?
There is a main security office with a counter. There is an office for security and an office for the police department as necessary. Yeah, so we've accommodated all of those.
Great.
And then the main access out to the inner city bus bays and local bus bays is through this vestibule here, where you can see we have about 4 sets of doors going out to the bus pier, which you'll see more in a minute. And then the second level, up above, again, the vertical circulation. So to go up to the bus offices, you have an elevator and a stair as you enter the facility. You have a large common area with a lobby that has a small conference room, and then a large conference room, which we're calling the community room, that could be used for community meetings in the downtown area. And that room would accommodate up to about 50 people. And the rest of it is essentially the admin offices for Brownsville Urban Systems operation, which will be moved over from the location at Jose Colunga. There also is a dispatch office in the back that actually has visual access out over onto where they can actually see the buses on the bus island from that second level. These are some early sketches that just started to look at the massing of the facility, and you'll see that this develops a little more as we go through the presentation. This is looking at 14th Street that now terminates into some type of a signage element that identifies the facility for the pedestrians that are coming up 14th. You're looking down Adams. This is the entry to the facility. The intercity bus pier, and beyond is the Brownsville Urban Systems bus pier. And this is looking from the intersection of Jefferson and International. Again, this is the retail element. We've included an outdoor space with a covered trellis area to kind of signify this as an entry from the university, as you're looking at it from the university. And then each of the individual retail spaces has a canopy and will have signage that faces International Boulevard. And this is the elevation facing the university. You can see the primary entrance into the facility from International is identified with an arch. So we've gone through and identified all the entrances with an arch element, very much like some of the historic structures early on in Brownsville. Going into a little more detail here, this is showing the pedestrian streetscape. We've tried to create a very strong pedestrian urban amenity along Adams, which would hopefully encourage further development on the other side of the street. But this essentially connects 13th Street with the pedestrian connection with parking along it down to the building entrance. You can see the bus bays beyond. The trees also help screen the bus space from downtown, and you see here in a minute that we've also put in a screen wall, so you've got further separation from the inner city bays with the pedestrian space. And as we approach the building, this is that monumental wall at the termination of 14th Street, which will also have some signage on it that identifies essentially kind of a gateway into the facility. This is looking at it from across 14th Street and from the other side here. We've identified these markers, which we're calling, I guess, wayfinding elements that will also have signage on them that identifies the project at several locations around the site. So as you approach the site, you see these markers that kind of lead you to the entry. Just looking at the building, a little more detail. This is the, I guess we would call the east elevation facing International with the retail entries. This is an enlargement of that on the lower left of the entry to the terminal itself in the middle of the retail. And we're going inside the building now. This is a cross-section through the waiting area looking back towards the front entrance. So these are the entry doors. This arched area is actually the window into that community room up above. And this is a cross-section looking to the west, where this is the community room. That arch window looks over the waiting area. The ticketing area is down at this end. So International is over here on the left. So you enter through a lobby into a grand waiting space that's 2 stories high, and then the windows you're seeing beyond are the offices for the bus administration area. And obviously one thing I really haven't pointed out is the tower element, being an historic element, really became the identifying element of the project, where you can actually see that tower as you cross the International Gateway Bridge. And as you approach the facility from all directions, it really kind of becomes the icon for the facility itself in terms of establishing that image. And this is a cross-section through the terminal area, again, looking at the ticket counters. So what you're seeing are the ticket counters in this area. And you'll see in a moment that this area up above that's shown in white here will be visual displays for schedules and so forth, and then the identification of each individual transit operator up above their ticket counters. This is a cross-section through the Brownsville Urban Systems bus platform, showing the canopies, some openings for landscaping just to soften it a little bit, and you'll have buses boarding on each side of that center island. And then the block in the middle is the ticketing building. There's also a restroom building and a crew operations building on that platform. And this is the larger canopy over the inner city bus operations, where the buses actually pull in and you have covered drop-off or covered boarding to those buses. Kind of an overview. Again, this is the primary entrance with the arched element, a covered canopy, the tower. What we call the folded plate roof here is the roof over the waiting area, essentially. And then this is the lower scale retail building. And then you can see the bus pier beyond this location. So the inner city buses are, again, turning right from International, turning in here, going directly to their designated berth, and then they would circulate the site and come back on Jefferson to exit. This is a view from the intersection of Adams and International. Another element we have is a little plaza, and if I could go back here, you can see there's a plaza area here. It was designed to really bring pedestrians into the site. The retail spaces can open off of that, where you can have outdoor seating for the retail space to really kind of try to activate the front entry, if you will. I think the more pedestrians you have and the more eyes you have on the street, the more of a secured environment you have. So it's partially just to try to police that environment, if you will, and have more people, more activity happening on that intersection. The next thing, just briefly, we went through a series of alternatives of looking at how we theme this facility, and this at this point is really a placeholder. The initial name of the project was Brownsville Multimodal Terminal. For one, that was a little bit too long to be catchy, if you will. We were looking for something that could identify not only the facility as a transportation facility, but also as a retail center, and something that might start to redevelop the entire area around it to create a new district for downtown that might go all the way from Jefferson down to the International Gateway Bridge. So one idea that has been brought up, and we're still kind of testing, is the idea of just calling the facility La Plaza. Many of the facilities, or the bus facilities in Mexico, go by similar names. Many of them are named La Estación. So we were trying to play off of that, but to create something that was more than just a transportation facility. So this is just one idea that will still be vetted out with your input as we go through. But this is what we've used so far, was La Plaza at Brownsville. And you'll see in a minute how we've integrated that. This is the main entry. So whatever the name is, we'll identify that as standing letters over the canopy at the main entry. This is stepping back a little bit. We'll also have banners on each side of that entry that might have color and identify the name a little bit further. Those could be changed out seasonally. This is the entry from the retail side. Again, similar concept, a little smaller in scale. Then it would also have smaller signs at the pedestrian level that would read La Plaza at Brownsville. And then for the retail facilities, we've established kind of within that same theme a signage element that goes above each of these entries. And this is just one example, not that there'll be a Starbucks here, but each one of those fits within that framework. So we've designed a framework that's easy for the retailers, as they may change over time, to put their logo and their signage into it. And also as part of that theme on that entry wall at 14th Street that you saw earlier, we would identify the sign on that wall, the name of the facility on that wall itself, and the same thing on the markers, the wayfinding markers that are maybe on the adjacent to the site or down the street, identifying the direction of travel for the pedestrians, maybe even down at the International Gateway Bridge. We would use this type of signage to bring you to the facility. All of these really kind of designed within the same general theme of having a dark colored wrought iron type signage, similar to what's done on much of the detailing of the downtown buildings. So that's it for the facility. Just briefly on the construction costs, this is where we currently stand. Based on our 60% design, we are completing 95% this week, and that is going to the contractor, and they will use that set to identify or establish the guaranteed maximum price for the facility. We're estimating that to come in at about $17.8 million. We also are holding a construction contingency in addition to that for anything that may happen during construction that hasn't been identified so far. The soft costs are about $11.3 million, which includes the design fees, the real estate, some temporary facilities that are out there now to accommodate the bus operators that were currently on the site. So that brings a total project cost of about $30.2 million. Our budget that we had established back in early in 2008 based on the design concept was $31.1 million. So currently we're just a little under $1 million below budget, and we hope to finish that way as well. But we want to hold that obviously at this point just in case something happens, in case we go over that $1 million contingency. But at this point it's looking very good in terms of being able to finish this project within budget. And a lot of that really is due to the diligence of the bus staff in terms of keeping the project in budget, but also the current construction market. You're entering the construction on this project just at the right time in terms of the construction market and taking advantage of the pricing that's available right now. This is the current funding status. BUS currently has $25.6 million secured. Based on that budget, assuming we're going to spend all of the budget, that means we still have $5.5 million that's anticipated to come from federal sources and is all in the process now in terms of obtaining those dollars to complete the project. We just have a few renderings that are kind of hot off the press here. We prepared these for the groundbreaking the other day. We're still in development. We're still working on things like colors and fine-tuning a few things, but as you can see, this is an update of the building from the intersection of International and Adams, showing some of the lighting effects as you'll have at night in terms of how the building may start to look at dusk. The dome is going to be lit, so you'll be able to see it at night. The tower itself will have some blue tile and wrought iron elements that will be backlit at night as well. And obviously the retail space will be very prominent with the glass that is facing the street. And here you can see the main entry, the designated theming, if you will, of the name on the entry, and then the community room behind the arch at the second level there. A couple of views from the inside. This is looking essentially from as you enter the building from the bus island through that portal where the ticketing area is on the left. You can see the schedule displays up above here. This is the main entry. You can see the arched window up above where the conference room is beyond. This is the retail space that's facing into the waiting area. And this is that double high two-story space with the arched windows letting in natural light. And then this is looking the other direction, essentially from the entry area, looking towards the back wall, the ticket counters down below. Again, the schedule displays above, some natural light coming in up above that, and then the windows beyond or from the looking into the bus administration area.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
And again, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but the building, the structure, the materials, are there any green components to green building to this facility? You know, in Fort Worth, you know how the floor is made out of recycled toilets and tubs and things like that. And, you know, I'm not saying we have to do the same here, but I just want to know, as far as you know, or anyone, is any green materials are going to be used to help build the multimodal?
There are a lot of aspects in terms of defining green. A lot of it also comes from using local materials, so you reduce the cost of transportation. All the brick on the facility, we're using brick that had also been used for the university. So the brick will be very similar to what you're seeing going in at some of the new facilities at UTB, so it's a local brick. So that adds to it. The floors are all terrazzo. That is essentially all recycled material.
Okay.
We didn't have any specific requirements from the city as far as trying to be LEED certified, but typically we try to do as much as we can without spending additional dollars that you would normally have to go through to be LEED certified. The other one is most of the materials that are being taken out of demolished buildings out there are being recycled.
Okay.
Concrete, steel, which is usually a huge benefit in terms of getting points for certification as being a green building. So the answer is yes. as much
I have
as
a
possible.
question.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. In keeping with the same green theme, was any consideration given towards the greening of International as far as taking the cars off? If I read it right, you have parking along International.
Right.
As opposed to no cars parking on International and more of a plaza in the center that opens onto International. I'm not an architect, but I don't want to see more parking to a street that's already too car busy. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
More green would be nice. The greening of the road, if you will.
That was not necessarily part of this project. I don't know if I can go back far enough here to see it, but whoa, I'm not sure what I did. Can you get us back into? Oh, we're at the beginning here. Okay. We weren't able to really touch International because it is a TxDOT street, and we didn't want to get into all of their requirements. But one thing we did do is we did do landscaping. I'm not sure how far I have to go to get to it. We did do landscaping along on the city's property or on the bus's property. Here we go. So we did put essentially there is parking there now, although it's not defined. It's basically just a big kind of uncontrolled area for access to those retail facilities. But we put in a few spaces because we felt like we needed what we typically call teaser parking for the retail. So you always feel like you can find a space, and if not, you go around the block and find one. The other thing we did that wasn't showing up in this is we put a median in International Boulevard to increase pedestrian safety. So as you cross International Boulevard at this intersection, you now have a place to stop in that median. And another thing we're doing from the green standpoint is currently there are brick pavers along Adams Street on the sidewalk here. We're reusing those pavers in the median of International Boulevard. So I'm not sure if I really answered your question, but what we tried to do was to get some landscaping along there to soften it. We really needed some parking to justify the retail and to make it viable to people who want to lease those spaces, but that's all we've really done along International. We would hope that in the future, we know that UTB has landscaping along this side of International, that we can also do that on the other side and really create a boulevard, if you will, all the way down to the Gateway Bridge to make it a little more pedestrian friendly.
Do you have to keep the parking on International, according to TxDOT?
Probably not according to TxDOT, but I think to really be able to lease the retail spaces, you've got to have a little bit of parking, at least within visibility or close walking distance of that.
You know, Alan, that parking garage, I think, is very, very essential to this project.
Mm-hmm.
To removing the parking spaces that Commissioner Galvin was talking about off of International, but also where the memory park is from the gateway. You look at all that, the few parking spaces that are there, that's very congested with traffic. We could take I don't want to take the taxi, but we could move that to the garage, and again, start generating some revenue, which I think would be very, very helpful. Not only that, but for the downtown retailers and their employees and things like that, to kind of centralize that area with a good multi-level garage. I think, again, that could help us in many different ways.
Yeah, I think we recognized that early on, and we did some layouts for a multi-level garage on this parking lot, which will work, and it will work with, if we were to do that, we would put retail at the lower level of that garage along Adams and along 14th, which would also help to reinforce that pedestrian connection to the facility, I think, and improve 14th Street. So it's definitely something that's desired. It was recognized that it wasn't part of the budget, and that would be addressed at a later date. Thanks.
I like what's going to be built there, but I'm a little more concerned about the operating and maintenance of the facility. Are we doing everything we can to make this as we can to be energy efficient?
Yes. From a mechanical system standpoint, we're using the most efficient systems that are out there. In fact, they would be, if you wanted to try to certify this building under the U.S. Green Building Council as a LEED building, the mechanical systems would meet that requirement. We also have If you saw in the internal renderings, natural light coming from the north. My pointer's not working.
You're gonna have skylights and stuff like that to cut back
There are what we call clear story lighting, which is actually shaded. It's more efficient than skylights along this area that only lets north light in, which is most efficient. It doesn't bring in any direct sunlight, but it allows light into the facility. So the lighting controls actually allow you to have a lower light level during the day, and you just have to bring the lights up at night. So we've looked at all, those kind of elements as well.
Okay.
We also have very little glass facing the west as well from an energy efficiency standpoint.
And your landscaping too will be like self-contained landscaping as far as watering to minimize loss.
We do have an irrigation system, but we pretty much stay with all indigenous landscape materials. And as you can see, really due to the nature of the project, there's a lot of paving on this site. There is really very little landscaping, and we try to put it around the perimeter where it really makes a difference to the face of the facility, if you will. But most of the trees are in tree grades. They have drip irrigation, so it's not like you're wasting water. The water is going directly to the roots. So yes, I think we've accommodated as much as we can there from that standpoint.
And I want to throw a couple of things out, if you don't mind.
And from a maintenance standpoint, we do a lot of transportation facilities, and essentially anything from about 10 or 12 feet above the ground, we make sure that they're very durable, exterior type materials. As you saw in the interior, we have brick on most of the interior walls. The restrooms are all porcelain tile. The floors are all terrazzo, so they're all materials that will last 100 years for the life of the facility and will be easy to maintain.
Even here along the coast also, a major concern is windstorm. It'll be built up to those specifications in case we get hit by a hurricane, maybe a category 2 that'll withstand those kind of winds, at least a hurricane.
Yes, in fact, one of the requirements for the facility was that it be able to be in operation during a hurricane evacuation. So that entered into the design process, everything from setting the floor level to make sure that it was above any potential flooding to the roof level. That's why we went with a standing seam metal roof. It's all designed to 110 mile-an-hour winds or above. So yes, we've accommodated all that relative to not only the code needs, but also to the point of providing a generator, so you still have electricity if the power goes down, and you can still operate this facility independent from anything else in the city.
And everybody can recall during Hurricane Beulah, which was the water is what did the most damage to the community, property, I should say. For flooding purposes, we're well prepared for that there, the elevation and everything else.
Yes, there was some concerns about this location because there has been some flooding at the corner of Adams and International.
That's why I'm asking.
And we put in 2 additional inlets in this area. And the other thing that we've done that really wasn't anticipated initially in the project is we're replacing the storm sewer from Jefferson all the way down to the Resaca on the UTV property, going from, I think, a 30-inch to a 60-inch storm sewer. So we're actually adding a whole lot more capacity for this entire area downtown as part of this project.
Okay, so that's been looked at.
So
I'm glad to hear all that.
that.
So, I'm asking the questions, you have the answers, and I'm glad you provided them so well. As far as the name, I would like to see personally something that ties us into Mexico, like the B&M International Terminal, the Gateway International Terminal, something that ties us as an international transportation multimodal facility. That's what I would like to see. But I would also like to see some feed generation type of plans there, like bringing in a major cafeteria like Louis or Furs or something like that to that facility to service not only the university but also the people that are going to be using the terminal and the downtown area, which I think could bring quite a bit of
Yes.
money into the city.
And that is what Mr. Munoz is working on now. He's looking at every avenue to increase revenue, and that's one reason we put this amount of retail in here, so that retail revenue could go to support the operation of the facility.
And being in a major thoroughway where I don't know what the amount of traffic goes through there, I'm sure it's astronomical. One of the busiest intersections you're going to find in the city. Perhaps considering putting up some electronic signs to where we can rent space and do some advertisement to generate more fees. The other thing I would like to see there is throughout the bus terminal, because it's such a huge terminal, that because people are waiting there, for long periods of time, sometimes waiting to catch a bus or whatever, that we put out in some way and make it part of the structure. A lot of the story of Brownsville, the historical data about Brownsville, somehow incorporate into the building towards permanent, where people can, you know, walk around and learn about the city that they're in, or leaving and coming or visiting. And I would like to see a map of the city, a huge map of the city there, designating maybe important tourist sites that people could consider going, you know, visit and stuff like that. Basically, that's my input, and I like what was done, and you know, I can't express my gratitude enough for management and directors and staff who worked to bring us here all this time and make this possible, along with the federal government that provided the grants and TxDOT that supported this and got us the money also. So I think I speak for everybody that this is a project that's going to really, really help revitalize downtown, and we thank you for being part of it too. Thank you.
And as I stated, that was definitely one of the goals of this facility, was to help revitalize downtown. And I think the fact that you're upgrading what's there so much, that it's certainly going to do that. If I could respond to a couple of your comments, we do have things I did not explain, but we do have a counter for the Convention and Visitors Bureau to provide information about Brownsville. There are locations that we've provided where kiosks can be added that would include either advertising or information about Brownsville. And then the back wall that you saw in the rendering that had the digital displays of the bus schedules on it also has room to provide artwork. So we've tried to integrate some opportunities where those things can be overlaid and added as the project progresses. So appreciate your comments.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Anybody else have any questions? City manager? No? Anybody? Any questions?
Sir, I'm up to date on the project, but that was a good point about the advertising for people to understand our city. And that's in the works, and we're in communications when we do have grants to install kiosks throughout certain areas of the city to show our city and have our visitors be able to view some of the locations they can visit.
Great. Thank you. City manager.
Actually, I've got a question.
Sure.
You're about, what, 2 to 3 blocks away from the International Bridge, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is your expected traffic flow in that area? Because you're right in front of the university, you've got the cathedral in the back, and you've got the downtown there. So what is your expected traffic flow? You're going to have the buses coming across the bridge. You've got, what, 17 bays for
Intercity buses.
Intercity buses.
Right.
And then you've got how many for long trips or in the regional area?
For 12.
12 more?
Right.
Okay. So what is your expected traffic on a daily or hourly basis?
It depends on which hour you're talking about. Essentially, I think to answer your question, we've designed this facility to handle the peak capacity, which is essentially is at Christmas, when you may have every bus bay filled here. On a normal daily operation, you may have no more than 2 or 3 buses in the intercity bus bays at any one time because they're coming at all different times of the day. Usually the peak is either early in the morning or late in the afternoon, where you may have up to 6 or 7 bays in there. So most of the time, what you've got with the design facility is going to be overcapacity in terms of what you really need. But we had to design it to accommodate what we typically call a crush capacity, which would be on your holidays when most of the traffic is really brought in by the intercity carriers. As far as the buses that will be operating through the facility from Brownsville Urban Systems, there's really no more traffic being created than is there now, because most of those buses are currently traveling on 13th or 12th. It's just that we've moved them from Market Square over to here, and currently they're running by the site anyway. And somewhere I have those numbers, I just don't recall what they are, but there's not a significant amount of traffic, other than probably you're going to have some level of congestion around Christmas. We've run the traffic numbers. We presented those to the city traffic engineer. We are not changing the level of service of Adams or Jefferson with the number of buses that are being put on here. So we don't anticipate you having any more increased congestion than what's there now, other than maybe some of those peak times. And one more point is that the intercity buses, as they enter the site, they're coming from International and going down Adams. Really, the only traffic on Adams should be, in going in this direction, at least westbound, should be those buses that are flowing through the facility. Because one thing we've done, I guess that I didn't explain, is that currently Adams is one-way through this direction. We're going to change it to two-way as part of this project from International to 13th Street. So any traffic that turns on Adams is going to be routed back up 13th at this point. So we're adding a one-way circulation, but it's primarily only for the buses and anybody that might be dropping off or picking up along Adams.
See, I'm a proponent of redirecting changing the whole traffic flow there. When you come off the bridge, you see people, it's against traffic. You're facing against traffic. People are trying to come down Elizabeth, and you run into the flow of traffic coming off the bridge, and the bottlenecks there. I think Elizabeth should be, instead of going the direction it is, counter, and every other street switching a counter to what it is. And I think it would help the whole flow around there. I've always been a proponent of that for 20 years. And I think that should be considered, because I think that would help a lot of the congestion there that the commission brought up. Any
Okay.
other questions?
I've got another question. That is, what amount, you were talking about retail spaces, and you were talking about trying to, integrate or increase the commercial capacity in the area. What amount of that capacity or use is going to be non-transient? I understand you're going to have people using the bus systems, the regional, interstate bus systems, but what amount of traffic are you trying to capture that would be non-transient in nature?
Essentially, it would only be for the retail space that's fronting International Boulevard. If I can go, I'm not sure how far I have to go to get to that. And that is the reason we wanted to be able to pick up some amount of on-street parking on International here. So this is about 11,000 square feet of retail. That could be anywhere from 2 tenants up to about 6. We feel like the majority of those tenants will be supported by students from the university, particularly up at this corner, and from the patrons, the transit patrons that are essentially using the facility, because most of this retail, about 3/4 of it, will actually enter directly from the terminal, but also have a face exposed to the exterior. So if for some reason the terminal is closed, it could also be open to the street traffic along International Boulevard. So the retail here is very much pedestrian oriented, just like much of downtown is. But we did provide, I think, about 12 parking spaces along here. So you did have, the retail at least would be comfortable that there was a place close to park at certain times of the day.
So essentially, most of the use is going to be for riders.
Yes, yes.
And so your attraction for outside usage, et cetera, is going to be pretty minimal, depending on whatever foot traffic you can get across from the university, if any. And
Right.
you're going to have a way to attract them, and that's only going to depend on the quality or the caliber of the shops and
Exactly.
restaurants that you have there.
Yes.
But your shops and restaurants are going to have to be price pointed so that they'll accommodate your travelers and your
Mhm.
riders.
Right.
So it's a pretty fine line.
Yes, it is. And obviously, that's one thing that Andrew's working on with many of those retailers now is to,
Would you
Commissioner Dowd?
thank you. Would you consider, or have you considered talking with the university, since they are directly across the street from you, so that you can coordinate the landscaping to complement both sides of International? Because I still have a problem with the parking along International. People are going to be double parking, looking for those spaces. It's still going to be not green, you know what I'm saying? So since the university is doing a lot of restructuring and landscaping, perhaps there's a plan for that section of International that you can work on together.
okay. Well, Veronica Mendez, the Director of Facilities for the university, has been on our steering committee, our community committee, and has had input. I can't say that we've really asked them compare plant materials with what they're doing, but it's something we can still do.
And I just got one other.
I want to make this suggestion. A lot of people travel with their children. Can you set up a facility that is a secure children's area, maybe where they can play or something like that, where they're not running all over the place? And maybe like a little theater where they can sit down and watch a movie or something. You know, you go on a flight, a long distance flight, and they put up a movie for you to enjoy during the flight. I mean, what would be so difficult or costly to do, incorporate something like that into the terminal, to where you have a secured area for children, also maybe like a little theater, you run something for kids.
I can say we haven't done that, but we have done is that all the furniture that's designated for the waiting area is flexible. It can be moved. So it would be easy to carve out a small corner to put in a fenced-in play area, something like that, as part of the furniture procurement on this. I think that's a very good suggestion we're going to look at. If we wanted to get more formal with it, we could even take part of that retail space. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to lease it, but it could be a children's area.
No, I'm talking about just something where they stay occupied for the short period of time they're there, or whatever. It's not to be their nursery there, you know. It's
Right.
Just something,
Right.
because otherwise children are going to be running up and down.
Something to capture their attention. Right.
Something to attract their attention, maybe learn a little bit about the zoo, or learn something, you know, or play with Legos, I don't know, something. I just thought that's
Something
something.
like
Any other questions?
Just one other, and that had to do with the mayor had brought up the issue of maintenance and the viability of the structure. what are you proposing, or what are you considering as far as the wear and tear on the surrounding streets? Because you're obviously talking about increased capacity. You're going to have
Right.
multi-ton buses going through this
Right.
area. You know, what is your proposal as far as?
What is in the current design is that we have put in concrete pavement at all bus aprons and all locations that buses are making turning movements. And then, since we were under budget, the city requested a proposal from our civil engineer to repave Adams, the remaining part of Adams, 13th Street, and Jefferson in concrete. That proposal has been presented and is in the process of being approved. So we will be essentially repaving all of Adams, 13th, and Jefferson as part of the project. So you'll have concrete streets completely surrounding the site.
Will that carry out
Which-
onto International, or is that going to just simply stop on?
It includes the aprons on the International, but since International was a responsibility of TxDOT, we did not go into International. Is that correct, Andrew? Yeah.
Only the aprons. We reach up all the way to the aprons, and then International is the TxDOT road. If you don't mind. Sure. City manager and chief of police, this sets up what the university has already started with their reconstruction. Thus, we begin with multimodal. And thus, I'm hoping that we'll be looking into the future at our downtown revitalization programs.
Right.
And I find myself in a situation where now I know that the numbers that we have with the police department are low right now, but with all due respect to our security companies, I don't know what talks you and the chief have had, I don't know, or with staff, but you said that there is an area for police officers to park in there?
Yes.
Okay, if we could start looking and structuring. I know that in essence, in paper, we do have a downtown patrol, and we do have officers that are downtown, but city manager, if we could start looking into our budgetary process for as trim as it is, but to start looking at possibly having shifts of officers within the multimodal facility in the area.
Within the complex, there'll be accommodations for officers to work out of. And
Just set up a donut shop.
Sir?
Set up a donut shop.
I don't think that's where I'm headed. I'm headed at,
I'm just kidding.
no, okay. I was just,
I'm not offending anybody. I'm just kidding, okay?
There's a security office within the complex with the
Okay.
officers.
But
It's it's not a full-scale community center or substation, but it will be a place for the police officers to be able to report, walk the area, patrol the area, do some of the paperwork, et cetera, and show a presence.
The
A
commissioner
very
brings up
positive presence.
The commissioner brings up a good point, Charlie, because one of the things that, we had our DRAC meetings and with downtown folks is, one of the number one concerns besides parking, is security. And if owners of downtown are gonna develop their second and third story parts of their building to have family housing, well, parking is essential, but two, most importantly, is security. And that's one of the number one things that they'll look at, and incoming people that want to come to university and have their sons or daughters study here from wherever they come from, that'll be the number one question. So I concur with the commission. That's very, very important, something we always hear. And it's good to see when PD does park and gets down and walks and, visit with the retailers, because again, the police presence is always important.
Yes, and they'll be able to team up somewhat with university, which of course has their own police department, so, yeah, that'll be something we're working on.
I think a lot's gonna have to do, go ahead, Nola, I'm sorry.
And it is something that we have already discussed with our future tenants, and they are willing to pay a higher rate to ensure that there is that security there. So it's something that we have taken into consideration and have discussed with them as well. And back to your question about a children's area, we have discussed that, and in fact, I've had a group of women that approached me about doing something similar to what the mall has, and that they would be willing to assist us with doing a fundraiser to fund that portion of the project.
It is.
Great. I think a lot's gonna depend what retailers you attract to that area, because I think it's gonna, and I envision it to be more than just a multimodal facility.
Right.
I envision where citizens will go there, not for transportation, but to shop also, and to maybe enjoy a cup of coffee at Starbucks, or First Cafeteria, or Luby's, or something like that, get a meal or whatever. Especially if you got the university as it's growing, is so convenient there that I think that you're gonna see a lot of,
Yeah, and that's what we're looking. We're looking for places that will attract people as well that, might not want to go to a bus terminal, but because they see a certain restaurant or a certain retail space there that they might bring them in. But yeah, it's something that we are taking into consideration, and we're working on as well.
Well, my concern going back is the O&M, okay? That's going to be a big kicker for us here, because the more maintenance, the less we have coming in.
Right.
You know, and these are not meant to make money, they're meant to at least sustain themselves, hopefully. You're
Right.
hoping for that.
Right.
But, you know, the electricity, somebody's got to pay for it. Electricity is very expensive.
Right.
So if we make it as energy efficient as possible and put skylights in the proper areas and the orientation to capture the wind towards cooler and, you know, reduces the cost of air conditioning, stuff like that, that is all helpful. So
Right.
I think that's what I'd like to see more than anything else, that you all pay a lot of attention to make sure we keep that O&M down as much as we can.
Yes, and we have taken that into consideration.
Thank you.
I just want to congratulate Norma Zamora and the staff and everyone else from the region and internationally who have come together to bring this project to fruition. I know it did take 8 years, and for anyone working on a project for that long, I commend them tremendously, because it takes a lot of patience, endurance, and diligence. And this project was of such a magnitude and such an excellent project that it drew interest from the federal government. And to have our Federal Transit Administrator, Peter Rogoff, here for the groundbreaking ceremony, someone who has been here, who's never been here, someone from that administration who's never been to Brownsville, to the Valley, to come down to kick off this project, to me, tells me that we're doing a great job down here. So I want to commend your staff and yourself for doing such a great job on this project.
Thank you. I appreciate the recognition of that.
And Norma, just so people know, you all have been very aggressive the last, what, 2 years? When did you start buying land?
We start purchasing the land actually 2 years ago.
2 years ago,
Right.
I remember.
It took us
I mean,
about
first
18 months.
First it started with a concept,
Right.
okay? Then you got it into a plan.
Right.
But really, it was the last 2 years of an 8-year project that got accelerated
Right.
with the funding that came from the federal government.
Right.
Okay, that's what made it possible. That's why we're here today.
Right.
I want to point that out, because for the past 2 years, you went out and really contacted property owners, got the appraisals done, and it was very favorable to us in a depressed market to buy these properties at a fair price that made this doable. Otherwise, if it had been at the peak of the real estate market, I think it would have been almost impossible. So I want to thank you for making that happen, and working so diligently to get the funding, and also going after and securing the property needed before everybody kind of woke up and said, well, I'm going to hold on, and I'm going to fight you, and I'm going to get the more we can out of money, because it could have been done. It could have drugged this thing even 8 more years,
Right.
you know. So you did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, last comment. I don't know if you heard this, but if you remember, the administrator for FAA, part of his speech, and we were talking about this earlier before the meeting, Norm and I, was he mentioned how the project was fully funded. And I thought that was very key in what he said, because I know that we are still short, but he said it himself. So, I mean, it goes to show what Norma and her staff is doing to really, again, be aggressive, and let's hold them to that.
We're short 5.5 million. That's not including any expansion that we may want to do.
Doesn't include the parking structure.
For parking, I'm talking about. You know, buying up more properties, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Thank you, Norma, and I think she deserves a round of applause. What do y'all think? Thank you, Norma, and thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful. Thank you. Okay, we skipped item A, is that right? So we go back to item A? City Secretary?
Okay, Commissioners, my name is Ramiro Gonzalez. I'm the new Comprehensive Planning Manager. I was tasked with working on wind energy conversion systems. There's been interest by Brownsville citizens and residents. I have an industry representative here if you guys want to talk, ask questions on anything regarding to the with the industry. I'll try and run really fast through this.
Raise your mic up so you don't have to.
Small wind energy systems, we're not dealing with these huge 300-foot towers that, on the utility-based level. We're dealing with systems that can be used at a residence. They are meant to promote sustainable and renewable energy, of course, and help PUB with demand at peak hours. There's been a huge market growth in the U.S. and around the world with these systems. It's grown by 15 to 20%, and there's about 43.2 million homes by 2020 that will be suitable for small wind systems. This does require net metering by PUB, which means that any energy that's produced that's not being used gets fed back into the system by these systems. Some federal and tax incentives, state incentives, there hasn't really been many from the state of Texas, but federal tax incentives are 30%, and there's a couple of state incentives, but nothing really to speak about. These are the towers that we're talking about. We're basically the ones on your right hand side, on my right hand side, are basically the ones that are used at the utility level, the huge wind farms. We're talking about towards the left side, specifically the last two on the left side. The cost of installation is about $30,000. It can range from, as it says, from $10,000 to $70,000, depends on the production capacity that you want. We are trying to regulate it in certain areas. 6 to 30 years. We are trying to regulate it just as best as we can. We put a production capacity of 20 kilowatts. We're allowing it by right, which means in commercial and industrial zoning. It shall not be a secondary use, so you can't have a property with just a windmill. You got to have a building on it. 120-foot height limit in commercial and retail and industrial zoning. It can only be, in residential, it can only be located in a rear yard. We also have a half-acre lot minimum size. A building permit's required. You can't install it in the historical and downtown districts. In residential specifically, like I said, there's a half-acre minimum lot. There's about the 70-foot height limit. We're trying to keep the height limit in residential. Of course, all these have to be engineered to wind load speeds, 130, 140, whatever Texas Department of Insurance requests. And in residential, there's no guide wires or lattice towers. There's only the monopole towers that are allowed. We are in a huge birding area, so the Audubon Society there's not much on small wind energy systems, but they do support these, and there's not much of an effect since we're not dealing with huge towers. And these are a couple of pictures, a couple of examples. The one on the left, you see the combination of wind and solar. It's on the roof. It's pretty safe considering they're on school grounds in that picture. These are rooftop co-locations, which are allowed in our ordinance. And these are some architectural blending capabilities. And these are they're used on light poles. So that's at the PUB level if they ever want to do that. So we just wanted to introduce this and see if you guys had any questions, concerns, recommendations.
Why is the slide where you showed the time of return, I think, from 6 to 30 years, why is it such a broad?
It just depends. I mean, it depends on how hard the wind blows, what kind of area you're in. Here, we are in a high wind area, so it tends to be towards the lower side. It just depends.
Are there any other similar communities of our size or location that have used to get a better idea?
I believe Mr. Alex Pena could probably answer that, but I believe that McAllen and Harlingen they have used them, and some other cities in the valley have used them as well. I don't know the payback there. That, you know, it just with wind systems, I think it really depends on the amount of wind that's blowing, and also the energy, how energy efficient the home is. I do know that Alex promotes that.
They have some lower level solar panels that they just kicked off. It was in some literature magazine months ago that they are powering one of their buildings, and that was from a company, I don't know from where, but again, it's lower level, walking distance to the building. Again, powering that one facility. I guess one of the things I'd like to see is, at some point, it's good to have all the information. That's very important to do in anything, but we'll have to really look at working with PUB and saying, you know what, we need to start somewhere. And whether we take an open subdivision and say we're going to try to get these street lights that take in that funnel in the air to power that one neighborhood, or versus start looking at the solar panels to look at powering public works, or however, we do need to kind of start somewhere. And I know there's some entrepreneurs out there. I know there's some startup companies that are looking for that opportunity to come and invest with the city. And so I think we really, really need to strongly kind of move towards that direction. If not, I think we'll never get there. And I think now's the time when you look at all these, small businesses that President Obama is now telling the banks, you need to start lending them the money. Well, they're ready to go and they're ready to start working. So we need to kind of join with them and again, get people working and do something that's really important to the environment.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. The scope of this ordinance is really just to control the use with just individual owners of these towers. I do agree that we do have to promote more green energy in Brownsville, considering that we are in a high wind area,
right.
And we do have a lot of sun here as well. So I think that's a totally different program, but there is a need to do that.
And the other part to that also is PUB needs to look at people that may want to get off the grid. For example, I know there's one gentleman who works for the city. He's constantly buying these solar panels. And I know he works for the library, and I'm not going to put him on the spot, but if you look at homeowners wanting to do that, to reduce the amount of electricity, but you'll go and you purchase all these solar panels and you make an investment for your home, yet PUB's not there yet. They're not able to take someone off the grid so they can generate their own electricity, or offset that cost and give an incentive to that homeowner to use solar panels to power their home, or again, power the computer or whatever. They need to look into that, and I don't know where PUB's on with that yet, but I think it's very important that we start working hand in hand to ensure that, hey, can people get off the grid at what point will that happen?
Well, I do know that Alex, the industry representative that I've been dealing with, he's here. He does say that the only possible way that you could probably ever get off the grid is if you do a lot of home retrofits, which means windows, boiler, tankless water heaters. It involves a lot more to get off the grid completely. But I don't think we're there yet with green energy. But unless you have, with solar panels, unless you have a huge solar panel, a huge farm or something. But there is I think the planning department is trying to promote retrofits. We have had a grant, and we do have a grant, and I think we're kicking off that program here pretty soon. So hopefully we can pair it and work with PUB. So.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Okay, we have an executive session. City Secretary.
Executive session, item A, attorney consultation pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code regarding pending litigation.
I would move we go into executive session.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll be right back. Thank you. Please rise and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
We have, who's going to use the invitation? Pastor Fu? Pastor Fu? Please lead us in the invitation.
Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to openly invite you, your presence and oversight in these proceedings. We ask that you bless and be with the families of our city, especially during this season of the year. We pray that your peace and love and harmony will fill their homes as they seek to meet the challenges of their daily life. Pray that you'll bless and be with the leadership of our city tonight as they seek to make decisions that will benefit the families and individuals of our community. May you fill them with wisdom and discernment as they make decisions that will not only most positively affect our community, but seek to ensure the welfare of the future of this city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. The invocation was led by Bill Fu from Success for Life Fellowship. Thank you. Okay, if it's okay, I'd like to move the proclamations up. We have two doctors here that will be recognized separately, and we will move on to ensure we have things that have to do with the hospital. So can I have a motion? Can I have a motion to move up the proclamations, please?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion made by Commissioner Longoria, second by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll start with Dr. Bodie. If you'll come forward, please. I met Dr. Bodie in his effort to raise awareness on the H1N1 2009 virus, and he performed a service to the community and trying to educate people, raise awareness what they're going to do. And based on his service, I wanted to recognize him for that service and appreciate on behalf of the citizens of Brownsville for making the effort, especially amongst the low-income people that really don't know what's going on and need to know and what to expect. So if the commission will join me in presenting the proclamation. City Secretary, will you read it?
A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing J.K. Family Medical Clinic and Dr. Satnam Bondi for civic involvement. Whereas on October 28, 2009, Dr. Satnam Bondi held an informative H1N1 influenza workshop at the Brownsville Police Department's Community Network Center on US 281. And whereas on November 15, 2009, Dr. Satnam Bondi held a second informative H1N1 influenza workshop in the food court at Sunrise Mall. And whereas Dr. Satnam Bondi, a native of India, hopes to increase the public awareness of the potential dangers of H1N1 influenza, as well as heightening the public's knowledge of measures to take to help guard against this potentially dangerous influenza. And whereas other healthcare providers participating in these events included Valley Baptist Medical Center, Valley Regional Medical Center, Brownsville Doctors Hospital, Mercy Home Health, Mercy Kids Rehab, Mobile X-Rays, Halo Home Health, Rio Med 21 Home Health, Brownsville Health Department, and the Cameron County Health Department. And whereas our sincere thanks go out to all who participated in these two events, particularly J.K. Family Medical Clinic and Dr. Bondi, for their work and dedication in making our community a little bit healthier and keeping it that way. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby recognize and thank J.K. Family Medical Clinic and Dr. Satnam Bondi for his help in providing community awareness for a potentially dangerous disease. Done on this the 15th day of December, 2009, signed by Pat Ahumada, Jr., Mayor, and Brownsville City Commissioners.
I would like to thank the citizens of the Brownsville Committee and also the Mayor, Pat Ahumada, and the commissioners, and all the present residents that for honoring me with this plaque. I am a new family physician to town, but I mean, since I've been here, I've been welcomed with such open arms by the community, and all the concerned commissioners have helped me to build my practice. And I'm looking forward to working with this community, and I really love the community so much that I will be continuing to work with the city to promote the health of its citizens, and any effort that you guys need me for, I'm there for you. Thank you so much.
Okay, go ahead and hold on to that. Go ahead and hold on to that.
We also have a separate proclamation for Dr. Hussein. If you please read out Dr. Hussein, would you please come forward? The virus transcends all ethnicity and all income levels, and it doesn't recognize age groups also, so we appreciate this opportunity to see the Brownsville as we can live in the virus. Congratulations.
A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing Dr. Kadeem Hussein for his civic involvement. Whereas on October 2008, 2009, Dr. Kadeem Hussein held an informative H1N1 influenza workshop at the Brownsville Police Department's Community Network Center on US 281, and whereas on November 15, 2009, Dr. Kadeem Hussein held a second informative H1N influenza workshop in the food court at Sunrise Mall, and whereas Dr. Kadeem Hussein, a native of Pakistan, hopes to increase the public's awareness of potential dangers of H1N1 influenza, as well as heightening the public's knowledge of measures to take to help guard against this potentially dangerous influenza. And whereas other healthcare providers participating in these events included Valley Baptist Medical Center, Valley Regional Medical Center, Brownsville Doctors Hospital, Mercy Home Health, Mercy Kids Rehab, Mobile X-Rays, Halo Home Health, Rio Med 21 Home Health, Brownsville Health Department, and the Cameron County Health Department. And whereas our sincere thanks go out to all who participated in these two events, particularly Dr. Kadeem Hussein for his work and dedication in making our community a little bit healthier and keeping it that way. Now therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby recognize and thank Dr. Kadeem Hussein for his help in providing community awareness for a potentially dangerous disease. Done on this, the 15th day of December, 2009, signed by Pat Ahumada, Jr., Mayor, and City Commissioners of Brownsville.
Thank you, Mr. Mada and City Commissioners and all the dignitaries here. I've been here 11 years actually, and I've been trying to help all my community here. I came here in '99 just to work here a few days, and I've been here since. I fall in love with the palm trees and the people around here. I think there is definitely a big need of a health education in this community. I have seen the patients in the emergency room who has multiple surgeries in the stomach, and I asked them, what kind of surgery you have? And the patient said, I don't know, doctor took something out of me. I would say that with the help of the city and other people, I would love to see if there is any structured effort to improve the health education of the people. I'd love to be part of it. Thank you.
Sure.
Sure.
This is something we're working on to invite the health community to events that are explained to them what you want to do, change their
I think one of the things which I would love to do is that a lot of people doesn't even know what kind of situation they're in, or clinically, I mean, what symptom they have when they have to come to the emergency room. I love to promote, like, I would call this medical emergencies. When somebody has any particular symptoms, you know, that they have to call the doctor or come to the emergency room. And sometimes these will be minor, but sometimes it will be a very bad symptoms. I'm just giving you an example of a heart attack. People just can be just weakness. They're just complaining of weakness, but actually they're having a big, massive heart attack. So I think that educating the people, just particularly this, even that medical emergencies, what are the typical symptoms somebody have and they have to come to the emergency room or call their doctors. And there are others, current even like we're going through the H1N1, or there is a virus called RSV, and that virus has kills a lot of kids, especially when they're less than 6 months old. So if the mother says the patient just coughing, you know, or just having a little wheezing, that could be a very, very bad thing. So I think there's a lot of educational need for those mothers to educate them, and the kids have those kind of symptoms, or even running nose, they have to call the doctor, or for the patients, especially the education regarding their diabetes. The compliance is the biggest of the issue that I see in the emergency room. Patient has been diabetic, but they're never taking his medication. This is the only place in the whole America where I have seen somebody coming with a blood sugar of 2,700. And you know, if you have a sugar of 300 or 400, you start having symptoms. Somebody comes with the 2,700 sugar. That means a lot. That means people are not taking care of themselves. And so there is a big need for health education, I think. And if that is done, I think, rightly and very, very well structured, and we have presentation by the, you know, with the help of the city in the different places, I think they will contribute a lot to the health of the Brownsville peoples.
Yes, since I'm in the primary care field, I see a lot of diabetic patients. I see that there is a very poor knowledge, especially in our valley area, because if you look around, I mean, you just have to ask somebody and you will find a diabetic patient. And that is a big focus right now, that I would like to educate people. We have a lot of good resources. We have resources in Spanish for our community, people who do not speak English. And we would like to take those efforts, and gradually, systematically, we will inform our patients, especially about the diet education, emphasis on medication compliance. As you heard, that patients are coming to the emergency rooms with blood sugars totally uncontrolled. They don't have to visit. It's increasing our healthcare cost, and it's not cost effective, which we can do it in our offices and much more effectively. And starting with diabetes, we'll go on to health related issues, and then in due time, as things come along, we will be more than happy to work with the city to provide this information, and anything else that comes up, we will definitely be in the part of the community and educate them in any way form available. All right. Thank you.
My name is Rudy Valle, President of Rotary Club.
And I'm Valda Rispoli, Treasurer of the Rotary Club Charitable Foundation.
A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing the Rotary Club of Brownsville Charitable Foundation for its civic involvement. Whereas in October 2009, the Rotary Club of Brownsville Charitable Foundation generously awarded a grant of $1,850 to the Brownsville Animal and Control Center, and whereas the money was then applied toward a $20 discount toward the usual $70 fee for a spay-neuter adoption, dropping the cost to the public to $50, and whereas the money enabled the adoption of 92 cats and dogs at the special cut rate price, and whereas Rotary Clubs and the Rotary Club of Brownsville are dedicated to charitable works of all kinds, and this grant is but one example of the kinds of community input done by Rotarians throughout the world. And whereas animal lovers and those dedicated to the humane treatment of animals are thankful of this help and commend the Rotary Club of Brownsville Charitable Foundation, now therefore we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby recognize and thank the Rotary Club of Brownsville Charitable Foundation for its help in saving the lives of animals who rely upon us for their well-being. Done on this, the 15th day of December, 2009, signed by Pat Ahumada, Jr., Mayor and City Commissioners of Brownsville.
My name is Rudy Valle, and I'm president of the Rotary Club of Brownsville. Thank you very, very much for the honor. We're humbled by it. The funds that we collect from you, the public, are used for our local community, and I know you know that. But a remarkable thing happened here in Brownsville just last weekend. The oncoming president of the whole world of Rotary, the entire world, was here in Brownsville last weekend. And he came to meet with us. Very nice fellow. So Brownsville is on the map with Rotary, and it's all through you and your help. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the Rotary Club Charitable Foundation is our charitable entity related to the Rotary Club. At this time of year, I think it's appropriate for all of us to remember that it is both our privilege and our responsibility to be good stewards of all God's creatures. And we hope that this grant has helped to make people aware of the needs to care for the cats, dogs, and other animals entrusted to our care. Thank you for the proclamation.
Thank
We
you,
appreciate it.
Ms. Rispoli, for making that. This is something that it's very dear to me, so I'm going to make a few comments also to add to it. The Rotary set the example of what can be done by a small organization coming together and putting their resources together, just like grains of sand, and collecting them. And the $1,800 may not sound like much, but it had such a huge impact, had an overwhelming impact that is astounding. The adoptions increased dramatically, Dr. Valle, Mrs. Rispoli. They just shot up sky high. It showed what $20 difference can make in adoption fee. There's a lot of people that cannot afford the $70, but will keep a pet well maintained. It's expensive to adopt a pet. So the $20 that was subsidized and make it feasible for a lot of people increase the adoptions. This is in conjunction with the city, what it's doing, along with other organizations such as the one I founded, Brownsville Paws, the Brownsville SPCA, Tipatex, and we have network. We have come together and network as never before. Before, everybody was doing their own thing. I carried my own dog food in my truck and my can of water, and I was, I feel like the lone cuckoo guy out there, But come to find out, there's a lot of people just like us, and the organizations just like us. And I think as mayor, we have brought those people and entities together that it has made such a tremendous difference. And I want to point this out so people know. Before I became mayor, we were euthanizing, and historically the data's there, consistently about 7,000 pets a year. 7,000 pets a year at the animal shelter. And we were adopting approximately 200, 300 pets a year. That's it. This year, which has been a very difficult year, where pet owners, some because of difficult circumstances in the recession and stuff like that, have willingly turned in their pets because they can't afford them for whatever. So that makes it more difficult for the city and all the organizations and rescue people like myself. But even under worst case circumstances that we're facing right now, The euthanasia rate has dropped down to approximately 5,000. So that shows what we can do with the $20 and with everybody putting in their little 2 cents and the grain of salt in there. So if we lower 2,000, that's not including the pets that we rescue and adopt out. We figure we've adopted out over 4,000 pets, and Art's here that works very closely with all the organizations as a health director. We've adopted over 4,000 pets, ladies and gentlemen. We found good homes for these pets. We go inspect the homes, make sure it's a home that's going to be compatible to the pet and secured, and we go and do all this stuff voluntarily. Many of us use our own resources financially. My food bill is higher for my pets than it is for my family, and a lot of us go through that. They make the sacrifice because we believe that our pets deserve a better life, and they deserve to be spoken for because they can't speak for themselves. But I want to thank particularly our health director, Art, who works very closely with all the health organizations, the animal committee, and all the people working on the ordinances, hearing input, and doing all he can to make sure that we reduce the amount of euthanized pets. And I want to thank the community for responding and being part of this, and such as the Rotary. And I want to echo what Ms. Rispoli said. A lot of people take and do not value their pets as they should. Chaining a pet for long periods of time is against the laws. It's state law. Starting next year, I'm going to push that we enforce that law, because pets should not be tied up for a long period of time, especially in a small chain, especially under bad weather. During the past cold snap, I asked the health department to start checking out on some of the houses I reported. They had pets with no shelter and a very small leash tied up. In some cases, no water, you know? So, I mean, this is a big problem that we have in this community, and it's a cultural problem. It's going to change through education, but it's also a problem that we're facing that it's uphill, because unless we learn to spay and neuter our pets, you're going to see an abundance of people, pets running loose in the community. It's an overpopulation problem, so we got to address that. Through the mayor's office, we applied for a grant, a $100,000 grant. Hopefully, we're going to get that grant that will go for this, specifically for this, to help bring volunteers together and educate the community, to help make Brownsville a no-kill city, but importantly, to educate people. That $100,000 grant will go a long ways to help this. But also, the city manager and the finance director, under very difficult budget constraints that we're facing, difficult times, I think we've done, not enough, obviously, but I think we've done a lot of good bringing everybody together. And I want to thank you, in particular, Dr. Valle, your wife, and the Rotary for giving us that example that $20 can make a difference. And I hope people learn to value their pets, make sure they secure them when the weather's bad. They deserve shelter, and they deserve to be taken and valued as pets that depend on us for love, care, and protection. Thank you very much again. Thank you. Okay, the next thing, we go back to the reports.
We need to go back to the action on item discussed in executive session.
Okay.
Consideration and action on pending litigation as advised by counsel in executive session.
Do we have, based on the executive session discussion, do we have a motion?
I'd move to instruct legal and city manager to go back and take action pending on what was discussed in executive session.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Longoria, Commissioner Longoria, second by Commissioner Gowan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You have one nay? Okay, go to the next.
Mayor's report.
It's okay.
Mayor's report.
Mayor's report, okay. It's been brought to my attention, a lot of people don't know what a mayor really does. It's a very time-consuming job, trying to keep your personal life going, your business going, serving your community, and trying to do some of the things that a mayor does. I'm just going to give you a synopsis from the last time that we were here. We've been working on the, they're not in order. We've been working on the January 17, 2010 health fair. They're helping the doctors put together. We're still working on the paws rescue efforts, working on ordinances, working on how to make things better for our pets, educating people, having adopt-a-thons, and looking for other locations, hopefully like Home Depot and Lowe's. We're trying to get locations like that to where we can have pets and show them and find good homes for them. And we do that every weekend at PetSmart and try to adopt some of these pets out. Also raising awareness that pets should not be left chained for no reason, but particularly during bad weather. They must be protected. I spent the day with the Hermes Music Foundation. I went with Pastor Brad Burke here and Judge Ben Neese. We went over there to McAllen. I was able to secure 1,800 toys that were picked up to send to children in Mexico that are less fortunate. We also tried to secure toys for here in the valley. The pastor secured toys for kids that live in the landfill in Matamoros. And we did press releases. We worked with the bishop to try to raise awareness of how we could get these toys for the less fortunate children. We did get, for sure, already picked up 1,800 toys, and we want to thank Hermes Music Foundation, Albert Kramerman, and Jay Dominguez and their staff for making this possible for children who probably would not get anything. They're getting a can of powdered milk along with a toy. So I think that was awesome. It took 3 years to secure this. I submitted the application 3 times. Twice I was not approved. The third time we were approved. It was a short window to get everything done to make that happen, and we were able to do that. I was present at the multimodal groundbreaking, which you heard about during the workshop. I met with the Federal Transportation Administrator Peter Rogoff, Blas Uribe, the brother to former Senator Hector Uribe, who is the Assistant Director, and made it known, I'm sure, and also I heard Commissioner Zamora also did too, made it known that we're very concerned about the federal funding being cut back when the census reaches 200,000 population in the city of Brownsville. So we made it known to him that we need help to raise that limit from 200,000 to another number so the funding keeps coming, because if we lose that funding, it's going to really hurt our budget, as I'm sure Pete Gonzalez can tell you. So we're trying to work very hard to prevent that. I also met with the Huejutla delegation, had Raymond Hinojosa sponsor barbecue and for them while they were here, put them together with the school district to do a sister city school with Huejutla, put them together with the university to do some kind of exchange or bring people over here for teaching or sending kids over there to learn a little bit about, they have a culture over there known as Nahua Indians, native Indians over there. It's a beautiful culture, beautiful arts and crafts that they do and stuff like that. But they have a lot of history. But anyway, the delegation was here. They're our sister city. We put them in contact with the University of Texas, Mr. Amigo, BISD, the zoo. The zoo sat down with them, drafted a concept to build a children's zoo in Huejutla, where they're going to build it and name it Brownsville Zoo. So that will promote our city. And it shows the alliances we're building with Mexico. So this was over a 2-day period, which took a lot of our time, but I think it was very beneficial for the city of Brownsville and also for our delegation from Huejutla. Ben Neese helped sponsor some of it, and there was other sponsors. We took them to dinner at Bennigan's. And then we had a little problem with one of the missionaries taking the van to Mexico, where the van was confiscated and all the contents were confiscated. I got a call of panic there and managed to work with the Mexican consulate and the customs chief, and got the van released with a minimal $41 fine. But, you know, this is some of the things that the mayor has to deal with in trying to work these things out for the good. We also had a concert with Pastor Morales at the Amigo Land, which was a beautiful concert that I attended. I attended the PUB banquet. Unfortunately, I could not attend Tony Zavaleta's recognition of the Otilia Award because I had 5 functions to deal with at the same time on the same day. It's impossible to do all of them. I went to the Reynosa city address with Oscar Lubert. I went to the city banquet. I went to the Tampico Informe, the city address over there. I hosted the MPO meeting as chairman, where we get millions of dollars from the federal government for infrastructure improvements, roads, and the like. Did the holiday greeting at the library, and I welcome everybody else to do the same thing. Participated in the Christmas parade. Went to the VFW District 18 conference here in Brownsville and welcome all the guests. Went to the Brownsville Historical Museum cultural event on Mexican independence. Attended a book fair at the Robles here at school. Went to the Idea Academy and did a presentation on paws, Brownsville paws. And to my delight, the children did a lot of homework and research on the animal shelter. They even came down with figures that would astound you, like 36,000 pets roaming around the city. We have 80,000 pets approximately in the city of Brownsville, and approximately only 6,500 are vaccinated. That poses a health problem and a true concern. And they went into the euthanasia rate and the adoptions and all that stuff. So these children were well informed. I took a dog with me and did a presentation on pet awareness and care. Went to the Brownsville Housing Authority ribbon cutting and swearing in of the new member. Went to the PUB meeting. Helped out with Garfield Park. They're going to do a Christmas presentation of 3,500 backpacks, but they had a problem. They had no electricity. They had no electrician. They had no generator. Got them the generator. Got them an electrician to donate his time and materials, and they should have a great event this coming Thursday at Garfield Park, where they're going to make 3,500 children happy. And this is through the mayor's office at no cost to the city, at no cost to the people who are doing this for the children's benefit. Attended the Christmas parade. I'm going to El Paso tomorrow. They're picking me up at 4:30 in the morning. I should be back tomorrow night. This was on the Weir project. I was supposed to go today to Ciudad Victoria, and we started out our travel around 5 o'clock in the morning, but the fog was so dense and then it started raining that we couldn't advance very far, so instead of risking of having an accident, we returned back. My travels were over there for city-related business and trying to get some of the things done. Finally, this is just a synopsis of the things I do. People need to understand that as mayor, I'm honored to serve you, and I do this gladly. I enjoy doing it. I want to thank the city manager for his leadership during this difficult year. I want to thank the directors for making do with much less than they would like to have. I want to thank all the employees that make this great city function and operate. I want to thank the finance director who I think plays a key role along with the city manager and all the other directors to keep this city going. And for this year to date, I think we've done extremely well under very difficult circumstances, even when we've lost property value assessments, bridge tolls gone down 30%. I just heard a report where the sales taxes were down 17%, Pete. Right? So I mean, this is not easy for what they do. And people don't appreciate, I feel, enough, and they expect more and demand more, but then you hear them screaming, oh, don't raise my taxes, don't raise my taxes. But man, we're doing great with the little we have. And I want to thank them for all they do throughout the year. And that's my report as far as mayor. And anybody else? Okay, the next one was, that's it.
I'd like to say something.
Okay, then the presentations.
The stimulus funding grants and applications.
Stimulus funding grants and applications. Ben Medina. Thank you all for putting up, listening to me.
Good evening, Mayor and Honorable City Commissioners. I want to today
talk a little bit about and give you a little report of status regarding our funding and stimulus funding that we have, just so you know, be transparent and things that we're doing. Next slide, please.
While you're getting ready to get started, Commissioner Zamora handed me this. There's a Christmas at the Park holiday lighting ceremony at the historic Washington Park, 6 p.m. tomorrow, Commissioner. Okay. There'll be hot cocoa, which is welcome, coffee, snacks, music by South Texas Mass Choir, Santa guest appearance, book reading. Was the night before Christmas. So everybody's welcome to attend this event at the Washington Park tomorrow at 6 p.m. Christmas at the Park holiday lighting.
Mayor, I'd like to be recognized.
Sure.
Yeah, because usually we put on the agenda commissioner's report, and there wasn't on this time, so I want to be allowed to say something like that.
I think you have to request it, do you not?
No, it's been requested many times, and they forgot. I want to know if the commission will allow me to speak real quick on behalf of what the commissioners are doing.
So move.
I won't have any problem with it.
I just like to say.
But let me first start you off. When you want to do you have to, because my understanding, city attorney, they have to give some kind of indication of what they're going to report on. Is that right? That's correct. So please, in the future, don't take it for granted that the city secretary knows what you want to report, or if you want to report, either email her and tell her in the context or the text of what you want to report. That way she can put you on the agenda. And that way you won't feel like you're being deliberately left out because you're not.
No, I'm not. I know I wasn't deliberately left out, but I just want to talk to the people at home regarding what the commission does. And I know the mayor does his pet projects and stuff like that, but one thing he didn't mention was economic development and jobs. I think you'll see a lot of commissioners on this panel that attend a lot of these Imagine Brownsville meetings and attend other seminars that give us insight on how we can move the city forward. You know, don't get me wrong, I love dogs, I love cats, I love let me see what else you talk about. Concerts, the parties you went to, Mexico, sister cities, that's all fun. And I'm sure as a mayor, he's a representative of the city, but I think our job.
Why don't you focus on making a report instead of attacking me?
Our job as commissioners is to try to set the pace and try to bring in economic development for the city of Brownsville. And I just want the people of Brownsville to know at home that we are involved and we are reaching out to our congressmen and our senators to get funding to provide jobs for Brownsville and to provide economic development. So, you know, like I said, Mayor, I appreciate everything you do for what you believe in.
I wish you'd focus on your report, Commissioner. Don't address me, focus your report.
That we commissioners are working hard as well, and we want you to know that we work tirelessly. And a lot of us give a lot of time, just as much as the mayor, to bring these things for Brownsville. And we hope we are able to bring in a lot of economic development in this next year, and we're working hard with other entities around Brownsville to bring this to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I too share your enthusiasm to serve the community and work to bring economic development, just like I do every day also in other areas. My report was a synopsis. It was not intended to slight anybody or anything like that. I do it because people don't really understand what the mayor does.
Can we move on?
That's all. So that was my intent. It was not to slight you, Commissioner. Okay, let's go to the presentation, stimulus fundings, grants, and applications, please.
I'll be real brief, Mayor. I know we're behind schedule, but I just wanted to brief you on projects that we're working on regarding our stimulus funding. Under the ORCA funding, which is Hurricane Dolly monies awarded to the city, basically the city of Brownsville is participating under the housing component of $1.6 million. We have signed a contract with the state, and we're gearing up that program today. The infrastructure as well, there's an item on the agenda for the West Elizabeth, which is part of this funding. We signed the contract. The state works very slow, so we finally, over the last couple of, last month, we got the contract, and that's been executed and forward. Under the Department of Energy stimulus funding, we have a weatherization. Also, We're marketing that through our channel, posters around the community, and that's to weatherize homes. This is a 3-year grant awarding us $1 million every year, and we hope to accomplish that program. Also, under the Department of Energy, we also, as an entitlement, got some money under there, and we're going to install a methane flare at the landfill, and also retrofits, upgrades to our HVAC at City Plaza. And that's in the bidding phase right now. Under CDBG recovery stimulus funding, we're installing phase 2 of the West Brownsville retention pond. That's $800,000, and that's in the bidding process. Today we had a pre-bid construction on that. Also, in the homeless prevention and rapid rehousing, we have money from the state and money from HUD as a direct entitlement of 1.3 under the entitlement and $1 million under the state program, and that's to move families that are homeless or because of foreclosures or about to be homeless, get them, help them with permanent housing. Under pending grants, as you can see, we have, this is not all, the mayor did mention one about volunteerism, and that our staff is submitting that or submitted that already this afternoon. But under the federal component, we do have an EPA grant outstanding for $500,000. That's to weatherize, that's energy retrofits as well. PUB working with them to provide a rebate to families that are customers if they buy HVACs or air conditioning systems that are energy efficient. Higher Sears, they get a rebate on that. We're working on also an energy conservation, which is education component, closely working with the university and the PUB on that, and that's also pending. We do have a NSP 1 with CDCB, which we're buying land, foreclosed property, and demolition, and the contract has been signed with CDCB, and that's been submitted to the state. And then we have an application pending for $500,000 or $5 million for neighborhood improvements, and that's also pending. So that's basically very quickly my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Commissioner Gowan.
I think it's awesome. Have you been able to replace the grant writer that you lost?
Yes, Commissioner. That person has already started working right now.
The grants that are pending, I take it those are the ones that you've sent in but you haven't heard back?
That's correct.
And are you looking next year to do anything differently than you're doing now as far as areas of
yes, and we're going to be targeting more of the foundations. I know those are limited now, but really be innovative and develop public-private partnerships, go after the foundation funding. I know we did not get the one for the wellness, but there's other things we're exploring with that, other foundations that have similar types of, give similar types of awards. So we're doing that to help our employees, but also look at the infrastructure, a lot of green building right now, monies, but that's what we're looking at.
Well done.
Mayor, one comment, if I may.
Commissioner Camarillo.
Ben, and I know we've talked about this in previous meetings, but West Morrison, any opportunity to go out and seek funding for West Morrison is extremely important. I believe we have funding for the East Morrison, but the West Side is so important with the number of schools, the number of people, and the homes that are out there. I can't stress it enough that it's something that's going to be right upon us that we're not going to be able to manage with existing infrastructure that's currently there. So anything we can do to seek funds for West Morrison is extremely important. And two other things, I know you mentioned demolition. I don't know if that meant knocking down homes that, dilapidated homes that need to be brought down.
That's the money that we have.
And then rehabbing homes, especially the elderly folks that, really need some support, whether it's a roof or a restroom or railing or however. We really like to see that we kind of try to go after some of those monies. Part of the reason also is I know some of the stimulus funds for the for rehabbing homes, making them a little bit more greener, but some of these old homes that a lot of our residents live in really need some upgrades. So anything that we can do to
We
go
are
in that
doing
area.
that, Commissioner, and part of the
Thank you.
guidelines tonight and one of the agenda items, we approve, hopefully you will approve those guidelines.
Right.
And in there, we're going to buy some Katrina cottages. Those, we're working with Lowe's, and this were done during Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, but they sell the kit, and that's what we want to install here. For the houses that are too far gone to renovate,
Okay.
they will be getting at Katrina cottages. And we also have another program with the Cameron County Juvenile system, where kids in San Benito are building 4 homes for us, and they will be moved to Brownsville, but they will be very energy efficient, very nice, Mars homes. But that's something that we will showcase through video and through a channel in the next couple months.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ben.
I know, Ben, you should be familiar, there was $30 million on the table for housing that we could have gotten a share of, we lost, we didn't even apply for. What can you tell us to that will not allow that to happen again?
I do not know about the 30 million, but what we're doing, Mayor, is that.
I mean, we need some kind of, I guess, way to check up on ourselves or somebody behind us. You can't do it all, Ben.
That's correct, and I think one of the key is that to start forming, working better with our nonprofits. You know, we do have 2 nonprofits right now that are building homes, but we need to improve them, fund them, provide more capacity to them, so they can go out and do more with the limited resources that they have. And hopefully, I know the commission did pass a resolution earlier this year with working with City CB. So that's something that I would like to pursue this coming year, and then, you know, work with them, open up a little bit more dialogue with them, and start giving them programs. But also, at the same time, any other nonprofit that needs capacity to do capacity grants, so they can start getting.
Yeah, what I was leading to, Ben, is this. It's overwhelming what you do. I mean, I'm amazed at what you do, and I think you do a fine job, and I think, I mean, you're stretched very thin. I know that, and I appreciate that. But isn't there a way we maybe incorporate something from the university to have some kind of internship there to help us monitor this stuff? Because, I mean, when funding is lost just because we don't apply for it, that really hurts, you know? Because, I mean, it's money that could have been had and would have been had and would have been benefit the community, but, you know, with so many irons in the fire, but I think there's a way to access what we have here, which is a university, to get some of these students to be interns here as a training ground to help us organize and keep some of this stuff from happening.
Right, and the university does have some of those components. We're starting up like the architecture, certificate in architecture, that we've approached them, the new provost, the city planner by profession, you know, invited to speak with him. So those are things that will open up, hopefully more avenues with the university. The grant that I talked to you about that you mentioned is to coordinate volunteerism, but also to bring in the university with their volunteers. Something that Commissioner Camarillo promoted was that they bring them in, rotate them through our departments. They learn how the city functions, and it's be part of their certificate. There's a program for public management certificate. So, I mean, that would be a key where they can come in through the department, rotate them around through the city departments and learn how the city works. At the same time, maybe they can pick a project that they would be interested in and pursue that.
I would like to see more of that because, like Dr. Otero, who was part of my volunteers, he put on a good presentation about the airport, which you're familiar with. We need to use more of that, I think, to our benefit. We have them here. Okay?
Yes.
Mayor, one of the things to talk about the interns.
Dr. Gowan?
Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that one of the things that would be very helpful, I think Ben would agree, is an interinstitutional dedicated grant writing team that looks out for the entire community.
Thank you, Dr. Commissioner Gowan. Commissioner
Just
Camarillo?
one last point. I know we talked about this when we're going to the budget and the whole intern deal. That's going to come up real soon, and we'll be meeting with some of the department chairs in the areas that the city would benefit from, you know, in finance and accounting And engineers, you know, when we talk about the number of engineers that a city should have, and you look at the number that Brownsville has, it doesn't compare, yet everything is about engineering. And everything is about how we are building and developing the infrastructure that we know we need. So I can tell you that we're going to be working very, very closely to try to get some young, bright minds to come help and obviously learn something for themselves as well.
Thank you, Ben. Okay.
Mayor, may I?
Yeah, sure.
Well, one of the things we've done is we've teamed up with our elected officials, either state or federal, and their staff are sending it to us information through emails, et cetera, that identify any and all possible grants we can apply for. So we're utilizing their staff as well to immediately notify us that grants are available for certain needs that we may have and we can apply for. So we got a communication scenario going on.
I think that's
with
where
them.
it all starts, the communication.
And also, one of the things we haven't done is identify to the commission the fact that we have been rehabilitating many homes for very many people throughout the city, and we need to bring that information to you. We're trying to get it filmed and things like that, but before and after in relation to totally rehabilitating a needy family's home. That's been going on for well over a year now on a continuous basis. So we need to bring that to you, but or at least give you addresses of the locations of the homes we have done, so maybe you all can visit these people. But it is a very happy time for them because we're just about to finish 2 or 3 more homes, so those people will have their home ready for Christmas.
Thank you. Okay, then go to consent agenda items.
Consent agenda items A through E.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Longoria. Can I have a second?
Somebody,
Second by Commissioner Zamora. Any discussion? All in favor?
aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 5.
Item 5, consideration and action to appoint or reappoint 2 members to the Brownsville Beautification Committee.
Mayor, I was asked, gentleman wanted to comment on the appointment to BBC. Is that correct?
Mm-mm. No? Okay, somebody else has one.
Beautification?
Item 5.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's for BCIC, I apologize. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Joe Atkinson to the BBC committee.
Appoint who?
Joe Atkinson.
We have a motion. Can we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Longoria. Any discussion? All in favor?
I have a comment. I was reviewing the application, and it said that he wasn't a Brownsville resident. Is that correct, or am I looking at a?
Is it a requirement?
I don't know. I just recall
Is it a
that we've had
requirement?
commissioners
City
bring that
attorney?
up in the past.
Well, he lists a business,
I can't, I'm hard at hearing. Yeah, I don't think it's a requirement, is it?
It's just, it's been brought up in the
Or
past.
bylaws. You're
about
not familiar with
appointments.
bylaws. Is anybody familiar with bylaws here, the beautification committee? Does he have to be a Brownsville resident?
He works at the museum.
Wells Fargo.
We look for Brownsville residents, and I don't know specifically if it says in the ordinance that they're required.
Well, why don't you just make it subject to that?
Well, that's right, I'll make the
that it
motion
doesn't
subject
go
to,
against the bylaws of the Brownsville beautification committee.
I amend my motion.
Okay. The motion, no, just restate it. We didn't get to the,
Make the motion to appoint Joe Atkinson, subject to the bylaws.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Any other appointment?
Well, that's just part of it.
There's 2 appointments.
I'd also like to appoint Ms. Carol Sanchez to the BBC.
Carol
Second.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Zamora. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.
Item 6, consideration and action to appoint or reappoint 4 members to the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation.
Mayor, I talked to my appointment. He'd like to be reappointed, Rico Holloway, so I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Rico Holloway.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Commissioner Triadi. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. There's four
Mayor, someone
appointments.
a gentleman did want to speak on this item. If we could allow him, to Mr. Jonathan Gracia. Is that possible?
Come again?
Mr. Jonathan Gracia would like to speak to the
Please
board,
go
to the
forward.
commission.
It's when you turn away, it's hard for me to hear unless you speak this way.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm going to keep it very brief. I realize that the appointments to the BCIC board are very important, and they're happening tonight. The board is the engine behind many of the projects here in Brownsville. They're going to be happening in the future. That being said, I realize that there are 4 appointments to this board, particularly tonight, and I'm not really sure who, if at all, is going to get appointed. But that being said, as I was researching this particular board and some of the others, I noticed one thing, that was that some of our city commissioners, present and past, were still serving on this particular board. They were filling many of the seats. And the reason I bring this to your attention is because with all that you have to do with city commission business, I was thinking that perhaps an opportunity for more individuals, that is citizens, normal citizens of Brownsville, not elected officials, could serve on these boards. I'm sure that there are many qualified individuals that would like to give their time to serve and to give back to their community. And I was really hoping that the City Commission, if not tonight, perhaps sometime in the future, could start thinking about nominating or appointing people that are qualified individuals to serve. That being said, in the past and tonight, we've heard a lot of comments about individuals giving back to their communities. And yet, we see oftentimes opportunities are not available to those that come back either from college or they graduate from college and leave. And we oftentimes hear our elected officials and others in positions of power that are able to give people opportunities. This is a classic example tonight where perhaps we can have a little bit of reflection and show, give an opportunity to others to serve on boards. And by that I mean, city commissioners, you have a lot to do. Perhaps we should open our minds a little bit and allow others to serve on boards that are qualified to do so. And I just wanted to raise that to your attention. I'm not going to try to affect your vote one way or the other tonight. I know that you've put a lot of thought into this, but I did want to bring that to your attention. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move to reappoint Carlos E. Hernandez,
Second.
providing he wants to continue. Can I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I'd like to appoint Dr. Rose Gowan to the BCIC board.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Motion was made by Commissioner Longoria and second by Commissioner Camarillo. Any discussion?
Yes, is that my appointment?
It's
Do
an
we have
appointment.
individual appointments on that? Everyone's talking about their own appointments?
Whose appointment was that? City Attorney?
Which slot is she being appointed to?
The 2 remaining appointments are Commissioner Zamora's and Commissioner Troyani's.
Well, you have one that was William Garza.
And he wishes to be reappointed.
So either you reappoint him or put somebody else. That's your appointment.
It is, and I was going to move to reappoint him.
Okay, but you're appointing somebody which is your appointment, Commissioner? Which, you nominate Dr. Garza?
Yeah, I was making an appointment, yeah.
But is it one of your appointments? No? Okay. So I guess the Commissioner is asking that
That's
you
fine.
give her the courtesy to make her own appointment instead of you making it for her. Is that okay?
Not a problem.
Okay, so would you withdraw?
I'll withdraw my
kindly, sir?
motion.
Your motion?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You want to make the
Yes, I
appointment?
make a motion to reappoint William Garza to BCIC.
We have an appointment by Commissioner Zamora. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gowan. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Is there any other appointment left to do? Or is that it?
I'd like to reappoint Anthony Tirani to the BCIC board.
Second.
Is that appointment up for reappointment?
He's gonna waive it to me, but it's his appoint. He has an appointment, but he's waiving it to me so I can get it done.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Commissioner Triani yields his appointment to Commissioner Atkinson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I have a question for council. Previously, Commissioner Carlos Cisneros was appointed to this board in his capacity as city commissioner. Is it possible that we can consider Rose Gowan to replace him, Commissioner Gowan?
Under the 4B statute, any director can be removed at any time because directors of the 4B serve at the pleasure of the city commission. However, the way that is noticed on the present agenda is simply the appointment and not the removal of any director. So does the commission have the power to do so? Yes, it does. However, it would have to properly notice that on the agenda and take that up at the next meeting if that was its wish.
I'd like to add something too. I brought this issue up with our director, and I was told that just because he's not a commissioner anymore doesn't mean he's not a citizen of Brownsville, and that he can't serve his community in a way that just because he's not a city commissioner anymore doesn't mean he's not somebody who can.
Yeah, but nobody's disputing that. I think what's being said here that the commissioner would like to see the Commissioner Cisneros replaced, and if that's the wishes of the commission.
She has the vote, she can do it.
Commissioner, would you please, mind not interrupting? If it's the wishes of the commission to remove him or anyone, and the votes are there, well, then that's allowed according to the legal counsel. So if you want to have that done, post it on the agenda, get somebody else to co-sponsor it, and then bring it to a vote. That would be the proper.
My question just had to do with the fact that he was appointed in his capacity as city commissioner, and we have a commissioner here who strongly wishes to serve on that board, and I thought maybe
And we
Mr.
agree, but,
Cisneros would
I
be
mean,
so
he's saying
kind
the
to.
protocol to follow is put it on the agenda to remove.
I understand that. I just wanted to clarify.
Commissioner, to answer your question, the mere fact that Commissioner Cisneros is no longer a commissioner does not disqualify him as a matter of law from serving on the 4B board.
Oh, we clarified that.
Okay, that's it for today, I guess, on the appointments, and let's move to the next item.
Item seven, consideration and action to appoint or reappoint 3 alternates and appoint 1 new alternate to the Board of Adjustments.
Good evening.
Whose appointments are those? Is there anybody, can you show whose appointments there are?
The 4 alternates, appointment or reappointment on the Board of Adjustment for alternates.
Well, how come you have 1, 2 appointments for Commissioner Cisneros? You have 1 appointment for Commissioner Camarillo, or no, 2 appointments for Commissioner Camarillo, 2 appointments for Commissioner Longoria, and 1 for Commissioner Atkinson. How was that decided?
By majority vote.
2 weeks ago, we appointed or reappointed the members. Tonight is only the alternates.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it should be allocated to where everybody gets an appointment, not just some stacked up by 1 or 2 commissioners.
Apparently, somebody spoke up first at the commission meeting and it was allowed. And then apparently somebody spoke up at the commission meeting.
Okay.
And it was allowed, and the rest of the commission voted on it.
Okay.
So
So
that's the way it
would it be fair to ask this body to consider giving each commissioner an appointment, and as they come up, make the appointment?
Mayor, that's really never been followed,
Pardon?
I mean, that's never really been followed. I mean, when you came into office, I remember numerous times, certain appointments that we were supposed to make, we weren't allowed to, and it based on the vote. So, I mean, we're saying this now, but, 2 years ago, nobody was really saying anything then. So, I mean,
I
Unless
think I'd
there's
have
gonna
to
be a
concur with
rule.
Commissioner Camarillo that
Unless there's
usually
gonna
it's
be
a
a
kind
rule,
of
I
a
mean-
steamroller effect, and that's kind of been the way it's been done in the past. I think that I was on the receiving end of that for about 6 months.
And I think, and I.
I feel you, same here.
And I think being as part of the person that was driving that steamroller, I'm sorry for that, but, you know,
We all make mistakes.
hey, that's the way it goes. That's the nature of the beast.
Okay. Well, I get the short end of the stick, but that's okay. I'm
Just
used to
about.
it.
Mayor, there's,
That's okay. Hey,
there's 3 people missing.
Commissioner Cisneros is no longer here, so then it would be Commissioner Gowan? So,
Actually, it's Commissioner Zamora's appointment. Well,
I made a
anyone
couple
or-
appointments in the last meeting, and I'd be happy to give those to Commissioner Gao.
Although I'm not prepared to make an appointment.
You want to
so
table it, we can bring it back?
Table that, please.
I'm going to table my appointment. Well, Mr. Kinch wanted to be reappointed as an alternate.
Correct.
He's in my district. I will reappoint Mr. Kinch.
Second.
okay, we have a motion to table. Can I have a second?
We're not, well, we're making one appointment.
Are we only making one appointment?
Just mine.
The other reappointments are not going to be made?
You know, I know nothing about it, so
Okay.
can you send me the information?
Do you want,
And take, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, do you want applications for the current board members that want to be reappointed?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So was there a motion for one appointment?
I made the motion to reappoint Mr. John
Do we have a
Kinch.
second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to table the rest?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Zamora, second by Commissioner Triani. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
Next time around.
And it was not 6 months, it was 1.
It felt like forever. Felt like forever.
Okay,
Item
item
8,
eight, well, it's just to.
you were going to announce your appointment, Mayor?
Yeah, reaffirm the appointment of Mate Rosario Gonzalez to the Brownsville Housing Authority Board. She took office yesterday. Item number 9. Public hearing.
Item number 9, public hearing and action on resolution number 2009-072 to authorize the filing of a grant application and execution of grant agreements with the Texas Department of Transportation for fiscal year 2010 annual request for proposals for small urban and non-urbanized public transportation projects.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. Brownsville Urban System is requesting a public hearing authorization to file a grant application with TxDOT in response to our fiscal year 2010 coordinated call request for proposals for services relating to the Federal Transit Administration programs. We'll be requesting the balance of the $5.5 million for the project.
This is a public hearing. Any for or against?
If there's no comment, I would move to close.
Second.
We have a motion to close public hearing by Commissioner Longoria, second by Commissioner Triani. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries to close. This is an action item.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria, second by Commissioner Triani. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 10.